Here are 2 Mother's Day pictures to make for your mother. Let's start with the markers and
I'm simply making U's. I made a little U and then I made a big U, and that is going to be my vase. I'm adding a line, and that's going to be my water line, and then I'm going to put different colors in there, some purples, some blues, some greenish colors.
Now I'm taking my ultra fine Sharpie and I'm just going around there just to make it start to stand out from the text a little bit. And I'm following that U shape, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to give it a shadow. And you see the shadow that I've made is sort of like a lopsided semicircle. That's how I would describe it. And I'm putting just a couple of hash marks in there, and I'm going in with a marker and I'm putting a little bit of gray in there just to ground that vase so that it's solid in the space. And I'm going in and I'm putting a horizon line in there also. And that's it. Super simple now, but just that shadow really makes it look like, oh, this is a vase, this is in space. And I'm putting some lines in, and I think I have a gray here, and I'm doing a couple swirls. I'm imagining that this might be a wooden table with some knots in it. And I'm just drawing lines, simple lines. And I'm speeding the camera up here so that you can get the gist of it. And I'm putting hashtags a little bit darker on that side where my shadow is. That's my shadow side. So I'm doing some cross hatching, and then I'm going to do it on the other side, but I'm not going to make the cross hatching quite as dark on the side that has the light shining on it. So I'm going through with a marker and also with my Sharpie to get some texture on there so that it looks like it might be a wooden table. So you can see as I get to the other side, I start to make those lines a little bit wider so that they're showing that it's lighter on that side of the table, on that side of the vase. I'm putting all the same lines in, but I'm just not doing them as close as I did on the shadow side. So that simple technique can really make it look like, oh, there's a definite light and dark side to this painting or to this picture. And I'm putting some yellow in there, and this is an actual marker, but it looks like a highlighter. So if you have a highlighter, add it to it. And I want it to be lighter because it was getting a little bit dark, and this is a Mother's Day drawing, so I wanted it to look lighter. I'm taking an orange here, and I'm just drawing some spirals. And I'm going to take another color. This is a purplish. And again, just following that, drawing some spirals. I like that some white is showing because it's giving some highlight to the flowers. And when you do markers, you need to leave the white. With paint, you can add the white, but with markers, you need to leave some of that white space. And then I'm gonna go in here with my green, and I'm going to cluster some raindrop shapes. And I'm putting them in 3s, in 5s, in 2s, and 1s, and I'm just clustering them because usually things come in clusters, especially things in nature. I'm using that fabulous Sharpie again, and I'm slowing down here because I want the spiral to be recognizable. The others, it was more just getting colors on there and suggesting the shape. But here I am slowing down because I want that spiral to look like a spiral, to represent the rose. When you look inside a rose, you see that there are different layers to that. And I'm going in and I'm putting, I think this is like a teal color. I'm sticking into those little empty spaces in my raindrop leaves. And I'm going to speed it up again so that you get the gist of it, but you don't have to sit through all of it. I'm adding some yellow now, and I'm making sure I leave some white spots again so that I have some of those highlight spaces. And I'm gonna go over here and write a little love note that says, I love you. I do it in the orange, and then I go back and do it in the black. Easy to do. Let's go on and look at this next one, which is a painting with acrylic paint. So let's talk about the procedure with this one. Done on a book page, and I've just used my marker to draw a U, to draw a squished semicircle, and a horizon line. That's the only drawing that I've done on there. And I've put 3 dollops of paint on there, a light, a medium, and a darker. And I'm putting the shadow on the other side this time. I'm taking just a thin paintbrush with water on there, and I'm starting to move those colors around. I'm going up to the horizon line and following the vase line and just moving this sort of brown mustard color around. And then the center color that I picked was purple because I think it's nice to add some color, and even if it's not realistic colors, I think it's still nice. And I'm going in with the brown. This is my dark side, and I'm going to drag it around, and then I'm just going to start moving those colors, and the light will go into the dark, the brown will go into the purple, just really fluid and blending and not really knowing where one color begins and one color ends.
I've added yellow to the corners, and I'm going to leave the center blank for the flowers. I'm using a solid white as the base for the flowers, and again I'm putting an odd number of flowers, and I'm spacing them out. I don't want them looking like they're in a line or in a diagonal. Think of clusters when you think of creating things from nature, because nature tends to grow in clusters. I'm adding a salmon color to those flowers. I'm starting light and I'm working dark.
I'm taking a black and outlining that vase. And again, I'm going to cut through that flower so that it looks like the flower's hanging over the edge. And I'm going to put some color into the stand and just drag this around a little bit. Just drag that black around a little bit. I'm also going to drag a little line along there. I've got purple on my brush. I'm adding some white in there. And the thing with water is it's very reflective, especially if there are flowers in there. You'll see parts of those flowers coming. And I'm going to make the water part a little bit wider. And I'm also going into the part that doesn't have water, because when you look through a glass or a vase, there's always a distortion to it. So I'm just doing that, finessing, moving, wiggling my brush around. Now I'm taking a color that's called Seafoam, and it's like a really light mint, and I'm putting it in there because, again, water has lots of different colors in there. Water doesn't have a color, but it reflects the things around it. So I'm putting some of that in there. Putting a highlight in there, like the glass is reflecting some light, and I'm just putting it in different places throughout. And I'm also bringing out that bottom of the vase a little bit more. And again, I'm making it brighter on the left side because that's where our light source is. And I've put this green in there. It's like a turquoise color. So I put it into the water and I'm putting it into the leaves. And again, I'm just doing like little dashes, little teardrops. And I got too much green in there, so I'm going back with the white. This is what's different about painting versus using markers. You can add white back any place you want. In some ways, I think that painting is a little bit easier because you can always redo something by adding new paint in there. And you can see it's starting to look like a vase that's got some water in there. And I'm putting some lines in there. And as you're doing this, remember that the flowers often face different ways. So have the little center starting in different places. So it looks like one little flower head is facing one way and one little flower head is facing the other way. And now I'm going in with some white, and I'm going to add some white highlights to these flowers. And again, I'm just going to put it sporadically through there, I'm not really following any sort of reason why I'm putting it here or there, because most rooms have multiple light sources, so you'll find that reflections will happen in different areas. And I'm even dragging some of those colors into the water because it seems logical that some of that peach would be reflecting in the water there. And I'm going through and I'm just putting white lines in the green leaves. I'm not even outlining them or anything. I'm just adding white lines to give the suggestion of leaves. Now I'm going to start adding the stems in there, and I'm going to use first solid white, and you see that where the stems go into the water, I'm putting them a little off-centered from where they enter the vase, because with water there is a distortion. And then I'm going in with a very fine one and I'm sort of touching it with green, and sometimes I get the color, sometimes I don't get the color. And then finally I'm going to go through with some black in there. And it's great if you can have your stems sort of crisscross, because that's how they are in a vase when you stick them in. Some are going one way, some are going the other way. So that's what I'm doing here. And once I get them in my vase, then I need to start adding them up into the actual blossoms. And I'm also painting a sort of U around there to give the impression that there is something holding this flower on, that it's not just sticking into it, but it's got its little cap that's keeping it on. So that's what I'm doing here, just doing a little U in there, filling in some color. And now I'm going to go through and do a border. You don't have to. This is just what I want to do because I feel like it gives it like a little bit of more interest. And I'm doing it very loose so that I have wiggly, squiggly lines. That's what I want to do. I'm going back, getting some color on the brush, putting it up on the other side, and just sort of squiggling along there. And I'm going to close the frame here. And sometimes it's very obvious, sometimes it's very subtle. So that's what I'm doing. And I hope that maybe these two pictures, one with markers and one with acrylic, has got you thinking about some things that you can do for Mother's Day. I hope everybody has a great season. Bye-bye.